The Accidental Entrepreneur is produced by Beinhacker Law and brought to you through our affiliate relationships with the following sponsors. One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the average podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. North Authentic, the conscious hair care marketplace offering the cleanest brands from around the world. The Healthy Place, the e-commerce site with thousands of supplements to help you live a healthier life, along with natural solutions for chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, and much, much more. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
Actually had a couple of different ideas.
Yeah, like what did you have? I'm curious.
Well, one of the ideas I had was for sort of it was more of a curated news service.
Okay.
And I knew to really, and I still would like to do it at some point. Nobody has really done
like online web-based type of stuff.
More audio based.
Okay.
But and again, based on my experience, I worked for a governor, worked for a secretary, was a secretary of a huge department. When you're preparing for your day, whether you're at that high level or not, just being able to have a good 15, 20-minute briefing of all the stuff that you need to know that day.
Yeah.
In a very concise fashion that's very tailored to you.
Yeah.
I always wanted that. It's so hard to actually find good news anymore. All you just go through the channels and it's just, okay, here's two people who don't know what they're talking about and let them scream at each other. Go. And that's, that's not what I need in the morning. I don't want to listen to that. So I always struggled to find, good, concise news of everything I need to know by the time I hit the door in the office. And that was kind of the idea, but
it's a good idea. So your clients would be like an industry, like an association or a large corporation where you would put together let's say a 15-minute podcast, right?
Yep.
Covering the items and the things. So I do know one guy who kind of does that. He used to be on the radio, and his clients are like a transportation association.
Yeah.
And every Wednesday or maybe every morning, whatever, he puts out just for the association members, this 15-minute whatever update.
Yeah. Yeah. And people have nibbled around the edges, with different industries and things. There are, one of the positions I held in that gubernatorial administration was head of the state's alcohol agency. Mm-hmm. And there's a guy for one of the companies. He puts together all the news clips for the day and sends it out to everybody in the industry who subscribes. But, you got to read the clip and, you still have to
it's an audio newsletter is what it is.
Yeah. But nobody's actually gone through it and actually sort of culled the key information.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode.
Good afternoon, Mitch. This is Bryan Rhode, founder and CEO of ACUMEN Apparel, cutting edge new men's apparel brand. So happy to be here talking to you today. I've listened to many of your other guests and actually learned quite a bit from some of them on this entrepreneurial journey. So looking forward to our conversation.
All right, Bryan. So it's Rhode, right? Bryan Rhode?
That's correct.
Even though it's Rhode.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'll make sure I get that right. Okay. And I appreciate coming on. I know we had some, technical issues last time. And we almost had them today, but we got through it. And I do want to tell your story. I mean, it's an interesting background. You didn't just graduate high school and college and go into the apparel business. You had a long road, including starting in the military, right?
That's correct.
So maybe you want to start there and take us through the whole law school, business school, corporate executive journey.
Sure. So, Mitch, as you mentioned, when I graduated high school, I went on to college and got into ROTC, and then went into the Marine Corps when I finished college and served for a couple of years on active duty.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. And it was a wonderful and amazing experience, a lot of responsibility and adventure at a young age, and wouldn't trade it for anything. And then when I finished my time up there, I moved on to law school and eventually became a lawyer and a prosecutor, spent a lot of years in the courtroom, and then moved on to state government in the state of Virginia and ultimately into a corporate job.
As a lawyer?
To some extent. When I moved into state government, I was working for a governor, and some of the roles that I had a legal element, but
you weren't practicing
more administrative,
attorney, right?
Yeah, I sort of stopped practicing law largely when I went into state government, and then, like I said, moved into a corporate job with a large company and did that for a couple of years. And when that ended, made the choice, or sort of embarked onto the entrepreneurial journey, which I know is the focus of your podcast, and been at it now coming up on 3 years, and it's been a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, and if I remember right, I'm kind of giving away the punchline here, but we'll get to it. There is a connection, right, between the apparel business and what you're doing and your experience in the military.
Exactly.
It's not like this weird connection. Oh, I'm ROTC. Of course I'm going to sell men's clothing. Like there's no, so for people listening, there is a connection. So, okay.
There is.
Let's, cause we got a good 45 minutes to an hour together. When you were in the military, did you travel around the world, or was it mostly? Yeah. You saw the world?
Yeah. So I was in the infantry. So we would go on deployments overseas, and this is pre 9/11. So we'd go overseas for usually 6 or 7 months. And the unit I was with, we'd deploy over to Okinawa, Japan, and then we'd get on ships from there and go all over the Pacific. And one of the advantages and nice things they would do for us when we get back from those long deployments is give us 3 or 4 weeks off. And I'd usually grab a buddy and head over to Europe and do some backpacking. So
nice.
Got to do a lot of traveling those 4 years.
So you were in the Navy, you said?
The Marine Corps.
The Marine Corps. Okay. And Marines are not submarines. Marines are on ships, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So the Marine Corps is part of the Department of the Navy.
Got it.
As some of my friends will joke, they'll say the men's department of the United States Navy. But, I say that all good humor. My father was in the Navy, and, my brother and I both became Marines, and we tease him, every generation has to do a little bit better than the one before. But in all honesty, loved our Navy brothers and sisters, and had a great time. And we would be on Navy ships when we would deploy.
Right.
So we worked very closely with them.
If I understand it right, the difference between Marines and naval officers, people in the Navy, is that you're going onto the ground, right? Yep. You're coming off the boat, getting on the shore. They're not doing that. They may be flying planes or whatever, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. They drive the ships and they put us ashore, and then we go ashore and do our thing and usually come back on board the ship. But, everything that we do, we have to so closely coordinate with them and work very closely with the Navy folks. And it is a very close partnership, and each one complements the other.
Do you think that your experience in the military helped you with, in what you're doing now and what you did in law? I mean, do you think it's good training I think it is, but I wasn't in the military. So.
Yeah, no, it's, in terms of leadership and experience, you get so much responsibility at a young age. Like I mentioned, we were talking about, you go overseas for 6-7 months and you've got 40 or 50 young guys who you're responsible for.
Yeah.
And you're responsible not only for their job performance, but every component of their life, because you're all over there together. You're moving around, you're doing dangerous stuff. And that's a lot of responsibility for a 23, 24-year-old. So I think in terms of learning to handle significant things, deal with stress, it is a great training ground and teaches you how to lead by example and how to motivate people and take care of folks. And it certainly helped in so many different ways when I was both a prosecutor, a lawyer, and in the corporate world. Just, again, it's a great ground for leadership training. And, the other thing with entrepreneurship in particular, you're expected to take the initiative when you're in the military. There's a lot of moving parts, plans go awry once, you get on the ground, or, if you're in combat, the shots start getting inspired, things change.
Yeah.
And you have to take the initiative. You have to understand what the ultimate objective is and find a way to get there, whether there's somebody there to tell you to do it or not.
Right. Because it never plays out the way you planned it.
Exactly.
That's the way real life is, except no bullets flying around.
Yeah, exactly. And entrepreneurship is so much like that. There's certainly people you can listen to, books you can read, and guides you can try and follow. But at the end of the day, I think it was it Mike Tyson or someone said, you have a plan until you get hit in the face. And then, you got to figure it out. You got to take that obstacle and find a way to overcome it. And it was not what you expected. It was not what you planned, but you just figure out a way around it. So yes, in terms of that, it was terrific training and a terrific background going into entrepreneurship. Yeah.
I think being in business is like being at war, except hopefully you're not getting shot at. You might. Hopefully you're not.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. So now what led you to go, so you finished up your stint in the military, you said it was like 3 or 4 years, right? And then what made you go to law school? And ultimately, you didn't go into business law, so you went to criminal law, right?
Actually, I spent a year at a big corporate law firm, and I know, I know you're a corporate lawyer. So I did M&A for, one of the big firms, and I made it about 11 and a half months. It really was
before the criminal stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
And, I'd gone to law school just because, I had a great experience in the Marine Corps. I wanted to try something new.
Yeah.
I really wanted to go back and get some kind of graduate degree and really study. I was so busy in college, with all the different responsibilities and activities.
A lot of it's all programmed for you. Yeah.
Exactly. It took so much time, and I really just wanted time where I could just really enmesh myself in something that was really interesting to learn. And so I turned to law school and had a great experience there. And, when I came out, I went to work at one of the big firms, and, it just wasn't for me. And I had been in a bar mentorship program, and the mentor they paired me with happened to be the elected prosecutor in the city. And, we were talking a little bit about it. He'd come from a big firm, and we had similar backgrounds. We'd gone to the same law school, and, he called me up one day because he knew I was a little bit interested in it. And he said, "Look, do you really want to work for basically about a third of what I was working for at the law firm?"
It's not well paying, right?
No. I said, "Absolutely. I married well. My wife is also a lawyer, and she's at a firm, so I can afford to do it."
Yeah. I think people don't know that, us being lawyers, we don't really specialize in anything in law school. You're only there for 3 years. You might take an extra course or two, and then you do an internship, but ultimately you meet somebody who says, "Oh, you're interested in that? Sure. I'll take you under my wing and I'll teach you what I know." And that's kind of how it happens, right?
Right. I actually heard you on one of your other podcasts. You were talking about law, and, law in a certain way. You go to law school and you're taught academic law. The folks who go on to be circuit court, Supreme Court clerks, and ultimately professors.
Very few of us do that.
Yeah. Very few do that. That's the law you learn in law school.
That's what people think about when they see it on TV.
Yeah. You don't learn how to really try a case. You can take some cases in trial advocacy and things, classes in trial advocacy.
Right.
But, when I became a corporate lawyer, I took corporate law classes, but I took corporate law classes that talked about case law, not about how you actually write a contract.
Right. I took contracts and I didn't really learn how to write a contract. You can learn a little bit, but yeah. It's a thinking exercise, I think, right? Going to law school. Yeah.
Totally agree. And so you actually learn the law once you actually get out there and practice it. And I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't really mesh with the corporate law that I was doing, because particularly at a low level as a young associate, you're doing things that
junk.
If you're just good at reading and attention to detail and just willing to go through volumes and volumes of
they're like, here, mark up this 1,000-page contract.
Yes.
Like, what?
Change the names and the dates.
You don't even know what you're highlighting at the beginning, right? You're just highlighting everything.
Yes, I know. Exactly. And it's just, it was not, wasn't what I was looking for at the time. I worked with some wonderful people. It was a great firm, but wasn't quite for me.
Yeah, it's just paper. It's a lot of paper, not a lot of people. So you really just kind of fortuitously, he took you under his wing and you got to learn the corporate side. The criminal side. Did you like that a lot more than?
I did. Yeah, I did. I remember, it was probably my second week on the job, and I was sitting around with some of the prosecutors, and we had just been in court, and I had watched one of their cases, and they asked me, "What do you think?" And it was just something that hadn't been asked to me in a year at a big corporate law firm. But you get thrown right into the mix, and you're on your feet all day, and you're in court. And I've always said this: it's an amazing experience because you're doing great public service, and you're helping people, particularly victims. But aside from that, I've always said, if you're a writer and you have writer's block, just mosey on down to your local criminal court and sit there for a day, because truth is far stranger than fiction. You can't make up half the
Oh my
stuff
God.
that you see on a day-to-day
clerked for one of the criminal court judges when I was in law school in New York.
Yep.
A lot of them are elected. And I'm talking one semester. I had the wackiest cases, the wackiest results. The people showing up, the attorney yelling at the judge for something, judge throwing him out of the courtroom. The defendant, who he was, I guess he was a public defender assigned to him, was like, I don't have a lawyer. What do I do? We'll get you another lawyer. It was just so funny. In the middle of the trial, the judge is like, can you see my jacket over there? And I'm like, first your law. I'm like, look, yeah. He's
Don't you
like, go to my jacket, and inside is a checkbook. I need my checkbook. Now there's a trial going on, right? They're giving. I see him because it's all blocked, the way his bench is. So he's writing. He's like filling out his Bloomingdale's. Pay. He's doing his checks. So if there's an objection for something, he looks up. Can you read that back? And they read back the transcript, and he goes, "You're overruled." Then he goes back to doing what he's doing.
Well, I've seen judges nod off on the bench. I remember one of the first early cases. I was sitting outside the courtroom, and I was standing next to one of the prosecutors who was more senior, and the deputies they literally carry this guy out. He's kicking and screaming and fighting. I don't know what had happened in the courtroom, but I mean, he was putting up a hell of a fight, and they just took him down the hallway. I defender. Yeah. And
whatever.
So they
wasn't the judge, right? Yeah.
And the other prosecutor is eating an apple, and he sort of nonchalantly looks at me. He's like, "You don't see that at Hunt and Williams every day, do you?"
Right. It's true. Yeah, that was a good experience. But that made me not want to go into corporate law. I'm like, I can't. Criminal law. I can't deal with this every day.
I worked with such terrific people, and it was so interesting all the time. And they just similar to the military, similar to being an entrepreneur, good, bad, or indifferent. There's just so much work that you're on your own pretty soon, and you're making decisions. You're deciding how to try a case. You're deciding what to do with the case. And that was much more aligned with me than being more of the advisor, or, even at a corporate firm at a young level, you're not advising anybody. You're just working for a more senior partner.
They're billing you out.
Yeah, exactly. And they're billing you out. It's another way to live life. I remember my first month there, they sort of gave you the great week at a nice hotel and introduced everybody. This is your computer. This is how everything works. And then I think I billed 255 hours the first month.
Yeah, you barely went home.
Yeah. I'd go home at 2 a.m. and have to catch a flight to Chicago at 6.
Yeah. Nuts.
I was like, yep, all the stories are true.
Well, criminal law is more like, you're more on your feet. You're not writing large briefs. You're not, submitting maybe a little bit, but most of it is trial work, right?
Exactly. And it's, the bigger cases, you'll have some time to prepare, but a lot of them, when you're in the lower level courts, you go with a big docket. You've read through the cases, but
making motions right to the judge, right?
Yeah. See what happens. And, you learn how to handle certain types of cases, and you just have to roll with it because the volume is so high, and you have to get through cases quickly. And, there was one of my favorite judges when I was a young prosecutor, and still keep in touch with him. He'd been on the bench for probably 25 years by the time I started appearing in front of him. And he was known as Judge Iron Bladder because he had his morning routine down, and when to have his last coffee, when to make his last bathroom break. And he'd hit the bench at 9 a.m. and he would not get off till 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he never stopped. And you had to be running back in and out of the courtroom and handling it all and keep up with him. And, I'm not exaggerating. I lost 10 pounds in the first couple of months that I worked there just because I was on my feet hustling all day.
Right. No time for lunch. You can't even eat, right?
No.
Like when you're in his break. Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, the judges, they want to run their court a certain way, right? I mean, a lot of judges are like that. Yeah. They're changing nowadays.
Yeah. And he had a huge docket, and once he started, he didn't want to stop. He just pressed through until it was done. Yeah. I mean, he could have taken a break for lunch. He could have adjourned, but he wouldn't. He'd just keep rolling.
Right. Well, I think, when you have a big docket like that and you have a huge work caseload, maybe you're settling a lot of stuff, but you're still ending up in court every day. I mean, there's still stuff to do, right?
Oh, yeah. And so it was.
And was this down? I know you went to school in Virginia. Was this down in Virginia, D.C. area?
Yeah, Richmond, Virginia. So
got it. That's the county seat, right? Richmond.
It's the capital of the state. The capital is there. The state government is there. Back in the 90s in particular, it was really, really bad for crime, and particularly high murder rate that since had come way down, but it was still a very, very busy criminal docket. And, there was certainly a lot of work to be done and, never a dull moment.
So how long were you with them doing the criminal
I was
stuff?
there 6 years.
Oh, for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I had run for political office and am grateful every day that I didn't win, particularly when I see how
looking back, I'm sure. Yeah.
Awful things are at times. And some of my friends were still, in the process, but that had led to working for a governor who happened to be in office at the time. And
that was after. So as a result of running, making connections, whatever, then he asked you to take a position. Right. Okay.
Yeah. I kind of knew some folks and they had a position open up and asked if I wanted it, and went to work for him. Wonderful guy. And, spent the rest of the administration with him. And in Virginia, they can only serve one term. So,
okay. 4 years.
When his term ended, that's when I took a job with a company and did more of the corporate side of things. But you're right. Since I left being a prosecutor, I really haven't practiced law full time since then.
So you went there. So then you went back to the corporate side, but not the corporate legal side. So that was more executive stuff, right? Yeah.
So I started in government affairs for this company in Virginia, and then I had sort of the Mid-Atlantic region, and then they transferred me where I am now to Jacksonville, Florida, and was in charge of the audit department for the company. And then they had a big public safety department, which I eventually ended up taking over. And, when I worked in state government, the department that I worked in was the Department of Public Safety, Secretary of Public Safety. And it transitioned and sort of overlapped pretty well.
This company did a lot of government contracts. Is that why?
Not a lot of government contracts, but it was a railroad. So unfortunately,
that's the public safety side of it, right?
Yeah. Railroads move a lot of stuff, and sometimes the trains do wreck, and there's a lot of flammable stuff, a lot of chemicals, a lot of things like that. So, that background and sort of emergency response, public safety is helpful.
Yeah. So how long were you with them?
That was 5 years.
And your last position was them as head of public safety?
Yep. And that ended in 2019. And then I took a little bit of time off, and I was sort of, exploring the entrepreneurship angle, and actually had a couple of different ideas.
Yeah. Like what did you have? I'm curious.
Well, one of the ideas I had was for sort of, it was more of a curated news service.
Okay.
And, I knew to really, and I still would like to do it at some point. Nobody has really done
like online web-based type of stuff.
More audio based.
Okay.
But, and again, based on my experience, I worked for a governor, worked for a secretary, was a secretary of a huge department. When you're preparing for your day, whether you're at that high level or not, just being able to have a good 15, 20-minute briefing of all the stuff that you need to know that day in a very concise fashion that's very tailored to you.
Yeah.
I always wanted that. It's so hard to actually find good news anymore. All you just go through the channels and it's just, okay, here's two people who don't know what they're talking about, and let them scream at each other. Go. And that's not what I need in the morning. I don't want to listen to that. So I always struggled to find, good, concise news of everything I need to know by the time I hit the door in the office. And that was kind of the idea. But
it's a good idea. So your clients would be like an industry, like an association or a large corporation, where you would put together let's say a 15-minute podcast, right? Yep. Covering the items and the things. So I do know one guy who kind of does that. He used to be on the radio, and his clients are like a transportation association. Yeah. And every Wednesday or maybe every morning, whatever, he puts out just for the association members, this 15-minute, whatever update.
Yeah. Yeah. And